Have you ever noticed that in the same society, with some people starting from poverty, they gradually build careers while others remain stuck struggling in the vortex of poverty and misery? Is it because of luck, being born into a better family, or knowing more powerful people? That might be partly true, but only a small part. The real difference lies in the way people think and act. Some people choose to blame their circumstances. They complain about poverty and wait for someone to appear and help them change their lives. But they wait, and no one comes. In the end, they are still in the same old place, a shabby rented room, a job that barely covers expenses, and an uncertain future. Others accept a low starting point but do not give up. They start by setting a goal, perhaps a small one, like saving some money each month, learning a new skill, or simply trying not to spend lavishly. But then, from that small goal, they go further. They plan for the next year, 2 years, 5 years. Even though no one around them believes they can do it, they still persevere, and strangely, each small step they take gradually moves them out of the initial poverty zone. According to an unofficial statistic mentioned by many personal development experts, effort can change up to 70% of a person's destiny. No one can choose where they are born, but everyone has the right to choose how they live. Someone once said, if you want to change your life, you must first change your mindset. And the first mindset you need is one of not accepting poverty. Poverty is not just about having no money in your pocket, it is also rooted in your daily thinking. If you always think you will never get better, then yes, you will never get better. But if you dare to think that you will do everything to escape this situation, congratulations. You have just flipped the switch for the biggest change in your life. Remember, no one becomes successful without experiencing times of hardship, exhaustion, and even despair, but they differ from the majority in that they do not give up. So, if you are also feeling tired with your current life, if your monthly salary isn't enough to live on, if you are in debt, do not blame life, do not blame others. Start with yourself. Listen to the story that is about to be told, a story not about fairy tales but about reality. The reality is that if you want to escape poverty, you must remember and live by 7 principles, not theories. Not just slogans, but experiences drawn from people who used to be very poor but are no longer. If you understand these 7 things, you will change. If you practice them, your life will not remain as it is today. Let's start with the first principle. Before moving on to the next part, we would like to express our deep gratitude to you for always following and accompanying us. Your interest and support are a great source of motivation for us to continue spreading more meaningful and practical content. And right now, we invite you to continue following the next content. Lesson 1. Having a goal means having a future. There is a very old saying, often paraphrased as, there is no favorable wind for the ship that has no destination. It sounds simple, but in fact, many people live without a clear goal every day. They wake up, go to work, come home, eat, surf their phone, and repeat the cycle. They do not know what they are aiming for. Nor do they care about how they will live next year, in 3 years, or in 5 years. Then they wonder why they are not yet rich, successful, or happy like others. Actually, you do not need to be better than anyone, you just need to be clearer than them about what you want. Maybe you were born into poverty, lack connections, or a solid foundation compared to your peers. But if you have a specific goal and seriously pursue it, you are already ahead of many people. People often underestimate the power of a goal written down on paper. A few lines of words seem simple, but they represent the map for your life. In the next year, how much money do you want in your account? In the next 2 years, what job do you want to be doing? In 5 years, where do you want to live? How do you envision your life? If you don't have answers to those questions now, then your life is likely being carried by the wind, not directed by you. Of course, having a goal is not enough. The goal must also be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, smart, and it must genuinely motivate you. Don't set vague goals like, I want to be rich, or, I want to be successful. That's not enough. How rich? How successful? When do you want to achieve it? Try replacing vague goals with specific ones. I want to save $2 in the next 12 months to invest in learning new skills. Or, I want, by 2027, to have a job with an income of $2 or more per month. It sounds dry, but when you write it down, you are forcing yourself to commit. And when you read it again every day, it reminds you why you have to strive. You don't need a huge goal from the beginning. You can start with small things. For example, waking up 30 minutes earlier every day, reading one book every month, or reducing unnecessary spending to save a specific amount each month. Small goals create great motivation. And when you achieve the first goal, you will gain the confidence to conquer the second and third. That is how successful people gradually rebuild their lives from a very low point. Perhaps even lower than yours now. You may not be equal to others in terms of conditions, but if you surpass them in determination, perseverance, and having a clear direction, you will go further. Goals are like a lighthouse in the dark night of life. When you do not know where to go, the light from that goal will lead you to shore. People who do not set goals are often easily swayed by emotions, trends, and the opinions of others. They work without purpose and, as a result, live vague and uncertain lives. If you do not write down a plan for your life, others may hire you to carry out theirs. Choose to be the architect of your own destiny. Setting goals does not change your life overnight, but it is the first and mandatory step. It's like climbing a mountain. The goal is the summit. If a mountain has no peak to aim for, you are just wandering aimlessly in the forest. Remember, success is not reserved for the smartest people, but for those who know what they want and do not stop until they achieve it. If you want to change your life, start with a blank piece of paper and write down what you really want. That is when you stop being an audience member and become the scriptwriter of your own life. Lesson 2. Feelings alone cannot feed you. People often romanticize the idea of a thatched hut with 2 golden hearts. But unfortunately, that only exists in fairy tales. In real life, especially in today's pragmatic society, love cannot replace food. Emotions cannot pay the rent. A warm hug cannot help you pay your children's tuition. Have you ever wondered why some couples who love each other deeply and overcome many storms together still end up breaking up? It's often not because they stop loving each other, but because they become exhausted from enduring a life without enough food, adequate clothing, or even minimal financial security. When both partners are poor, when they lack even basic funds for daily needs, when they wake up worrying about dinner, even the most beautiful love will gradually erode with each unpaid bill, each borrowed sum, each sigh before a payment deadline. Love is one thing. Living together under financial strain is another. Feelings cannot sustain everything. They need support from responsibility, capability, and especially finances. Consider a couple who loved each other since college. At that time, they were both poor, ate instant noodles, and dreamed of a better future. But after a few years post-graduation, the wife still held onto the old dream, while the husband was overwhelmed by bills and new responsibilities. Every time they argued, the husband might say he couldn't live forever on love without money. The wife felt hurt, thinking her husband had changed his mind. But perhaps that wasn't the case. He hadn't necessarily changed his mind. Life's circumstances had changed them, pulling them apart not because anyone was inherently wrong, but because prolonged poverty took its toll. You see, when both partners have nothing, every small problem becomes a major issue. Even a broken motorbike can throw the household into turmoil. A mild illness can be enough to cause a financial crisis. And when living under constant pressure for a long time, people easily become irritable, give up easily, and grow distant. Many people still believe that if they love each other enough, they can overcome anything. But life is not a TV series. It involves daily necessities like bread and butter. People can love each other when they are empty-handed, but they cannot live together peacefully if they remain empty-handed forever. So, if you are in a relationship or about to get married, ask yourselves if you are ready for the real pressures of living together. Not just loving each other. Be realistic. You do not need to be excessively rich to be in love. But at least both partners must be willing and able to build a life together. You do not need to find a rich person, but you need someone with a progressive mindset, willing to work towards a better future. If both partners are lazy, passively waiting for things to improve, and living day by day without planning for the future, no matter how much love there is, the relationship can easily fracture. Feelings are beautiful, but they cannot replace responsibility and the realities of life. So, The second lesson to escape poverty is not to dream that love alone will automatically solve all marital difficulties. People cannot rely solely on emotions. A solid financial foundation is necessary. Even if modest, if you want to live together long term, you must first be able to live. Lesson 3. Practice reciprocity. Don't take friends for granted. There is a strange phenomenon in life. When you have nothing, and someone invites you for a meal, you feel happy, warm, and grateful. But when they invite you a second, third, or fourth time, you might start to get used to it. Then, at some point, you might begin to take it for granted. That is often when you lose a relationship. Many of us unconsciously fall into the mindset that it's natural for people to be nice to us. But nothing is inherently natural in that way. A meal, a cup of coffee, a helping hand, all stem from the other person's initiative and kindness. If you don't show appreciation or reciprocate, over time, they may distance themselves. You may not have done anything malicious, but you might be perceived as thoughtless or unappreciative. Consider a young employee, just graduated and working far from home. An older colleague often invited him to eat, paid for him, and offered enthusiastic guidance on his work. The young employee felt grateful but never took the initiative to invite the colleague back or even offer to pay his share. Eventually, the colleague stopped showing care, stopped inviting him to meals, and maintained a clear distance. When asked why, the colleague simply said, "I don't regret the meals. I just regret investing kindness where it wasn't reciprocated or perhaps even recognized." After hearing this, the young employee suddenly realized he had never responded appropriately, and his passive acceptance had become a form of silent disregard. That story serves as a reminder for many of us. People judge you not only by your abilities but also by how you treat those around you. If you only know how to receive and not how to give, even in small ways, you will gradually lose your reputation, honor, and respect. No one forces you to treat them to something extravagant, but reciprocity matters. It can be a simple meal in return, a small gift on occasion, or simply a sincere thank you and showing concern when the other person seems tired. These are the actions that maintain relationships. These gestures help you be remembered as a kind and considerate person, not someone who only takes without giving back. People experiencing poverty sometimes lack not only money but also social awareness in this regard. They might think, "I have nothing to give back, so I'll just accept." But that thinking can push potentially good people away. People might help you once or twice, but few will tolerate perpetual one-sidedness. The lesson here is very clear. Don't let others feel they're being taken advantage of. Because when they withdraw their kindness, you lose not only their help but also potentially your own honor. Remember, every time someone does something good for you, it's an opportunity to show gratitude and maturity. Don't let yourself become the person who makes others regret their kindness and vow, "I will not help again." Maybe you are not naturally skilled at communication or tact, but sincerity, initiative, and thoughtful gestures are things anyone can learn if they truly want to maintain lasting relationships. Life involves a chain of exchanges between people. Giving and receiving are indispensable aspects. If you only focus on one side, you will quickly become isolated. So, the third lesson, to move beyond poverty, is to understand social etiquette and practice reciprocity. Maintain a balance of giving and taking. Never let the kindness of others become something you take for granted. Because once they leave, you will realize that losing trust is sometimes harder than losing money. Lesson 4. Wide, superficial relationships are not as valuable as deep, true ones. One true friend is precious. In life, you will meet hundreds, even thousands, of people. Some will call you a good friend. Some will call themselves brothers. Some will swear loyalty. But when you are really in trouble, truly desperate, you will realize that the people who genuinely stay by your side can often be counted on one hand. Breadth is not necessarily depth. Quantity is not necessarily quality. Many connections are not necessarily durable. There are people who are good at networking, seem to know everyone everywhere. Everyone pats them on the shoulder and greets them warmly. But then, when something difficult happens, often no one speaks up to help. Not necessarily because they are bad people, but because the relationship was merely superficial. Society is full of seemingly close but ultimately fake relationships, drinking buddies, Casual acquaintances who call each other brother. Social media, soul mates. But when you fail, when you need genuine encouragement, these people often suddenly go silent and disappear as if they never knew you. We don't necessarily need countless acquaintances. We need someone who truly understands us, willing to stand by us when the whole world seems to turn its back. That is a soulmate. A true friend. A soulmate may not appear often, they are not always noisy or boisterous. But they are there when you fall, when you are confused, when you lose your way. They do not need to say much. Just one sentence like, "I believe in you," can be enough to give you the strength to move on. There is an old story about a rich and successful man who knew many people in the business world. Once, he faced bankruptcy and called person after person seeking help. Unfortunately, everyone cleverly refused. Only one person, an old classmate who wasn't particularly prominent or close in recent years, came to him. This classmate sat next to him all afternoon without saying much, simply poured him a cup of hot tea, and said, "Take a day off, start over tomorrow." The bankrupt man later said, "Among hundreds of names in my contact list, only that one person made me not feel like a complete failure." Someone like that, just one, is enough. You can have 100 superficial relationships, but without someone genuinely sincere, you will still feel lonely in the most difficult times. Conversely, if you have even one sincere friend, someone willing to tell you the truth when you are wrong, criticize you constructively when you are arrogant, and stay when you have nothing left, please hold on to that person. True soulmates are rare, often just one or two in a lifetime. So, don't become overly focused on expanding your social network if you lack true friends. Don't confuse acquaintances with people willing to sacrifice for you. Finding a soulmate is not easy, but losing one can happen in a single moment of indifference, selfishness, or prioritizing your own interests over the relationship. Keep such people close by living honestly, meaningfully, and without selfishness. The fourth lesson, to move beyond poverty, involves not only finances but also cultivating relationships deep enough that when you potentially lose everything, there is still someone to remind you that you are not alone. Not everyone who knows many people is rich in spirit, but anyone with a true soulmate, even if financially poor, is not truly alone in this life. Lesson 5. Women should not limit themselves or rely solely on others financially. Many women still live by the old belief that men handle big things, like finances, while women take care of the home. They believe careers are primarily their husband's domain, and their role is mainly cooking, taking care of children, and keeping the family warm. But think about it. If one day your husband becomes unemployed, sick, or is no longer around, who will take care of the children in your life? The answer is likely no one else will step in fully. And then you might realize that dependence, while seeming safe, is like a beautiful cage without wings to fly away when necessary. Women are not wrong to choose staying at home and taking care of their family. But it's a mistake to think that is all they can or should do. You can excel at cooking, teaching children, and keeping the house tidy. But don't forget you also possess a mind, the ability to learn, your own dreams, and the right to pursue a career, financial independence, and personal growth. A woman with a progressive mindset isn't one who neglects her family, but one who understands that taking care of herself, including her financial well-being and skills, is also a way of taking care of her husband and children. A happy, independent mother and wife can positively inspire the entire household. I once knew a woman who married at 23 and dropped out of college, thinking advanced education wasn't necessary for women. 10 years later, her husband faced severe financial problems. She found herself in a difficult situation with no job, outdated skills, and no bank account in her name. She had to start over from scratch at 33, with 2 children and completely lost confidence. Then, little by little, she went back to school at night, learned online accounting, learned computer skills, and learned online sales. It took her nearly 3 years to secure a stable job. But she later said, "If only I hadn't thought back then that just having a good husband was enough." Women do not necessarily have to be the primary breadwinner, but they should be capable of creating value for themselves. No matter how small. There is little pride in having to ask your husband for money for personal items or worrying about every penny spent for fear of being scolded. Being financially independent does not make you less feminine, on the contrary. It can make you stronger, more attractive, and more valuable in your own eyes and potentially in the eyes of others. If you are a wife or a mother, try asking yourself, if tomorrow I had to shoulder everything alone, could I do it? If the answer is uncertain, then start learning and preparing again today. Even from the beginning, it's okay to progress slowly, but don't stop moving forward. This world changes rapidly, and if you stand still, you will be left behind. The fifth lesson for all women seeking to escape poverty: don't think that career development has nothing to do with you. Don't let yourself become someone defined solely by cooking, cleaning, laundry, and sacrifice. Become someone who can stand firm even when no one is by your side. Because an independent woman isn't one who doesn't need anyone, but one who isn't afraid of lacking anyone. Lesson 6. Relying on yourself is crucial. Waiting for others is the most unreliable wait. Have you ever heard someone say, "I just need to marry a rich man, and my life will be fine," or "My son will study well and then take care of his parents"? Those sayings sound familiar because they reflect the common mindset of relying on others to change one's life circumstances. People wait for someone to support them, wait for luck to knock, wait for an opportunity to appear magically, even wait for fate to change thanks to a lottery ticket. But the truth is, if you always live in expectation of others, you will often live in disappointment. Everyone has their own life and is busy with their own problems. No one has enough time or patience to carry you through life indefinitely. Family can love you, and friends can help occasionally, but no one can do your work, study for you, or strive hard every day on your behalf. You can lean on others when you are tired, but don't consider dependence a long-term plan. Truly progressive people don't focus on having to rely on anyone. They don't just look for support, they strive to become support. A young person once said, "I went to university not because I loved my major, but because my parents wanted me to, thinking they would probably find a job for me later." Then, upon graduation, he had no experience, few practical skills, and no idea where to start. He just sat there, blaming others for not helping him at the opportune moment. That's a passive approach leading to failure. If you just wait, even the smallest opportunity will likely pass you by. But if you take the initiative to learn, earn money, and improve yourself, even from a low starting point, you can still overcome challenges. No one is born inherently strong in all aspects, but everyone can learn to stand firm on their own feet. You don't need to be the absolute best. You just need to be someone who doesn't give up on yourself. Life is inherently challenging. It rarely gives you anything for free. But if you dare to try, dare to fall, and dare to stand up again, you become the safest refuge for yourself, more reliable than anyone else. And remember, no one is completely unselfish. Even the people closest to you sometimes cannot be there forever due to their own lives and circumstances. So, instead of asking, "Who will help me?" ask, "How can I help myself?" Investing in yourself is never a waste. Learning more skills is never too late. Taking time to upgrade your mindset, maintain your health, and read one more book are ways to build a solid foundation. A person who knows how to rely on themselves will never fall into complete despair. They can fall, but they won't stay down for long because they know ultimately, no one else is coming to save them, only they can pull themselves up. The sixth lesson to escape poverty is accepting the truth that in life, no one is a permanent lifebuoy for you. No matter how much you love, trust, or are close to them, in the end, only you are responsible for your life. And if you handle that responsibility well, then one day, others might naturally come to rely on you, rather than the other way around. Lesson 7. Everyone has chances. The question is, do you dare to give yourself a chance? In this life, there is no shortage of potential chances to change your circumstances. But the irony is that many people see an opportunity, know they should probably take it, but turn away, not because they aren't smart, but because they fear failure. Fear others laughing, fear they aren't good enough, and fear that no matter how hard they try, they won't succeed. That fear is what holds them back. Have you ever seen someone who constantly complains about being poor? But when you suggest they learn more skills, open an online sales channel, or try freelancing, they refuse, offering various excuses. "I'm not tech savvy. I don't have time. I'm not good at speaking." In the end, their poverty isn't due to a lack of opportunities, but a lack of courage to step out of their familiar comfort zone. There was a girl who used to be an office worker earning a low salary, e.g. 3 million Vietnamese dongs per month. She wasn't proficient in English, nor did she have outstanding qualifications. But instead of accepting her fate, she studied every night, little by little, using free online videos. She taught herself design, learned content writing, and then took on part-time online jobs. 2 years later, she quit her office job completely to become a full-time freelancer, earning 3 or 4 times her previous salary. She wasn't better than others at the starting point, she was only better in one crucial aspect: daring to give herself a chance to start. Don't wait for others to come and give you a chance. Opportunity isn't a fruit falling from a tree. It's often the result of proactively opening doors. No one forces you to do something monumental right away. But if you keep procrastinating, the years will pass quietly, and you will remain stuck in the same place. Life always presents 2 types of people: those who find ways and those who find excuses. Which type are you? If you always think, "I can't do it," then sorry, you are right, because you likely won't even try. But if you think, "I will try," then at least you have taken a step forward while others are still hesitating. One of the biggest reasons people remain poor is because they close themselves off to opportunities. They are unwilling to learn new things, do things differently, or try a different path. The world today changes constantly, technology develops, markets expand, skills can often be learned for free online. Never before have there been so many potential ways to generate income. But if you refuse to learn, refuse to change, and refuse to start, then these possibilities will always remain distant. Opportunity doesn't necessarily choose the best person, it often favors the person who acts. And you need to remember, no one steps out into the unknown without some trepidation. But the difference is that successful people choose to move forward despite fear, while those who fail often choose to retreat to the familiar because they are afraid. The last lesson is also the most important. Everyone has the opportunity to rise up. But only those who dare to walk can see the path unfold. You can be poor, you can lack resources, but don't lack one thing: the courage to start. The opportunity is always there as long as you are brave enough to say to yourself, "I will try." Life is not inherently fair. Some people are born seemingly at the finish line. Some people, like you and me, might have to start from zero. But that doesn't mean we must forever remain at that starting point. Because life isn't determined solely by where you start, it's determined by the steps you take every day. You have just heard 7 lessons that seem simple but serve as a compass for anyone wanting to step out of the shadow of poverty, deprivation, and helplessness. 1. You must have a goal. Without one, you are just drifting and not truly living. 2. Don't believe love alone is enough. Feelings are vital, but cannot replace basic necessities and a stable life. 3. Practice give and take. Gratitude and proper social conduct are invisible assets that help maintain relationships. 4. Don't prioritize wide, shallow relationships over deep ones. One true soulmate is better than 100 fair-weather friends. 5. Women should not abandon their potential or careers solely to be wives and mothers. Without independence, you lack true freedom. 6. Strong people do not primarily seek support, they strive to become support. This mindset shift yields vastly different results over time. 7. Everyone has opportunities, but not everyone dares to seize them. Successful people often aren't luckier, just braver and trying. You can choose to ignore these lessons, or you can choose to start implementing them today. It doesn't have to be a huge, dramatic change. Just do one small thing every day in the right direction. The difference between someone forever poor and someone escaping poverty lies in the decision: continue complaining or start changing. You can't control where you were born, but you can control where you are going. None of us are forced to be rich, but we all deserve to live valuable, meaningful lives, free from the constraints of debilitating poverty. Take control of every single decision you make today. The road ahead won't be easy, but it is worth traveling. And your life story can be rewritten starting from this moment. If you have followed along to this part, it shows you are a person who genuinely cares and pays attention to detail. We look forward to hearing your thoughts on today's topic. Do not hesitate to share your feelings or comments. Each opinion from you is a valuable source of motivation for us to improve and bring more quality content in the future. Thank you for taking the time to follow. See you again in the next content.